Well, how's everybody doing tonight? Week 12, version 4. Got a few that's not going to be able to make it tonight, so we'll go and get started. If you've not registered for iOS bootcamp, it is still available. I think I got 5 or 6 in there right now, which I'm pretty impressed with. First weekend of registration, I'm pretty happy with that. But I'd like to have 10. 10 would be awesome. So I need like 4 or 5 more would be great. And what that one is you create a mobile app each Saturday for 4 Saturdays. It's summer session 1. I do feed you. You come in here at like 7:30. We don't start till 8. And you go to like 12:31. And from 12:30 to 1 is pizza time. So you create a complete mobile app each Saturday. And I can show you real quick the page. I think I have a page linked here on this announcement here. Let's go to that. Yeah. And it's on our RBC site. So bring it up this way. Let's see. There it is. Okay, so May 13th, you get a 3-ring binder, 4 Saturdays from May 13th to June 3rd, 8:30 to 1:30, and you'll create 4 Saturdays, create 4 popular web apps or mobile apps. The categories of the apps you'll create are gaming, maps, GPS, backend database, and audio video. You get a 3-ring binder along with the DVD tutorials and code, referenced videos, all that good stuff. Lunch is provided, no textbook required. Week 1, out of the chute, we do a game basics with Sprite Kit with 3D animation, creating like a Tetris game, if you're familiar with that. I'll show you that works. Electronic Arts, EA Gaming, you might have heard of, uses Sprite Kit for all their games now. Which has 3D rendering and stuff. And the way I teach it basically is project-based. So we learn, here's the end result, what it looks like, kind of like we're doing here, but then we show you line by line the code and explain it, and then you implement it with your nuances, how you want the app to work. Second week is a driving directional map using pinpoints and GPS. Also be able to put in there like notifications. One I've worked on and finished is it gives notifications of crime, which if you watch the news, you already know there's a lot of crime, but it literally gives you pinpointed information last 24 hours, the exact crime title. Doesn't give you details as far as who got arrested or anything like that, but it says here's a detail of this crime, like arson or whatever it might be, car break-in, whatever. So we use an open database that's in Rockford in the government website, the API that gives us what's called JSON data, where we can parse it to use it. So that's what I use. And it uses MapKit, which is the #1 map kit now for mobile phones. It's actually started surpassing Google for the first time, believe it or not, because iOS took a while to get up there to Google, because Google is kind of the bar when it comes to maps. But now MapKit now has availability for like if you're in a city like Chicago or New York and you do transit, which a lot of folks do. iOS just added transit about 1.5 years ago. And Google would tell you when trains are arriving, leaving, all that good stuff. And iOS does that now as well. The May 27th backend database. This one's creating a Snap or a messaging app using Facebook login API, and App42, which is a backend database repository that basically simple notes, but you'll be able to share it with other people and add information that you want to share via chat message. And then the last one's video recording. Like on all of our phones when we video record, it saves it to the phone, but we really don't have a way to name it. It's just by date. For Droids and iOS both, it's like this. So the app idea here was to be able to name the video Like this one's called WTC 229. It gives it a date stamp like normal video does in the video app. But then also real simple, adding 6 to 8 filters to the video, like grayscale, sepia, sketch, cartoon, I think is one of them. And then this one actually has ability to FTP to a website too, if you wanted in both locations, on the phone and also on the website. And so that's the last one. So again, that is iOS mobile app, and it is summer session 1. If you have any more questions, let me know. I think we had 5 or 6 students before class tonight, so we've got plenty of room in here. We meet in here too. Questions on that? Okay. Also, I'm not going to go to it right now because I have a lot to cover tonight, but myreceipt.org has a number of new jobs posted. Check that out. Thing coming up this week we have is Hour of Code. If you've not ever been to Hour of Code, it's this Wednesday from 5 to 6, downtown location. It's a nice building. If for no other reason to go to see the building, to see our location there, it's kind of cool. And it's just an hour. And so a lot of cool, if you've not been to downtown Rockford for a while, there's a lot of nice eating places right around R-Star now within a block to radius that you can go to. The one I like to go to is a brew house right down the street. But then up the way, there's a number of other. Anybody have any favorite you guys go to or you've been to recently on Main there or on East State, downtown Rockford, right by R-Star? Number of places. So you're all invited to come this Wednesday from 5 to 6. You can RSVP or not. If you want to RSVP, you just go to myreceipt.org or just go to rbchourofcode.com is a website for that. Okay, so this week we are going to start with week 12, a Kahoot on JavaScript and cookies. And played around with what I want to do, what kind of database I want to use. I started out with XML first. I wanted to do that. But the way JavaScript is designed and your resources you have, we're going to use cookies instead, which will work perfect, I think, for shopping list. And so we'll find out what cookies are in the Kahoot. It's kind of a discussion Kahoot, more than you should already know this information type of Kahoot. And so they're calling it cold start sessions, I believe, where you start out with a question that is new that you've never studied about maybe, and then build from there. That's kind of what you watch a video and stuff like that. Then we'll go over the JavaScript W3C schools. I got a slideshow we'll look at. We'll do a W3 schools example. We'll change the cookie around and the timing of it, expiration. Then we'll go over the take home, which is version 4 this week. So if you'll click, I'll go and click on the Kahoot, and I think I should still be logged in, but if not, it will.
They don't have that character on Sesame Street anymore.
Do what now?
They don't have that character on Sesame Street anymore.
Oh, really?
It's a Veggie Monster now.
Ooh, Veggie Monster. Well, I heard they did recently got a character that had what was it? I can't remember. Like not Downs, but something like that. A character has some type of developmental issue, and they deal with it. And I thought it was kind of cool. I didn't hear about that though.
Yeah, that was a few years back, like during Obama presidency, because Michelle Obama did all those health codes
and
stuff. And then, yeah, changed to Cookie Monster to Veggie Monster.
Veggie Monster, okay. He was eating cookies during the little demo. Watch your ears. I'm going to mute this. Whoa. Thought that would happen. Turn it off. Okay. Now let's try it. And let's turn the volume down. Oh, there might not be any music on there right now. Might be the problem. That's what it was.
But what exactly is a cookie? When cookies were invented, they basically were little documents containing helpful information about you and your preferences. For instance,
So go ahead and put your code in while you're waiting.
Tell the website,
This is just a little intro thing. You can put your code in while it's talking.
The website would then save that information to a little document, a cookie, on your computer. The next time you visit that website, it would be able to read the cookie and save earlier. That way, the website could remember your language and let you view the website in English without you having to select your language again. Pretty handy, huh? But cookies are not limited to remembering just your language. In fact, a cookie can contain pretty much any kind of information. It can contain the time you visited a website, or it can contain the items you added to your shopping basket. It can even contain all the links you clicked on a certain website, much like leaving a breadcrumb trail on the internet. A cookie can only contain so much text, but apart from its size, the possibilities are endless. What exactly is saved to a cookie is up to the creator of the website you are visiting. Now, contrary to the stuff a cookie can contain, there are limits to who can read your cookies. Imagine you first visit the website we talked about earlier, and you tell that website that your language is English. This is then saved to a cookie on your computer. If you visit a different website later, the latter wouldn't be able to read the cookie from the first website. In other words, only the same website that saves information to a cookie can access it. Since the beginning of cookies, the popularity of these clever little helpers exploded, and they gradually evolved into a more complex, yet essential part of the internet. During the revolution, the amount of data cookies contained started to grow. At first, they contained just a few preferences, like your language, and maybe your preferred layout for a website. But soon, developers realized that the more information they could store about you, the better they could suit your needs. Cookies started containing more and more data, and eventually started pushing their size limitations. Subsequently, developers came up with a clever workaround. What if they would simply store a unique ID in a cookie on your computer and save the rest of the data in their own system? That way, they could save unlimited amounts of data. The cookie would simply serve as an identifier for your computer, much like a dog tag by which the website can recognize you and look up your data in its own system. This was the first leap towards so-called third-party cookies. As mentioned, only the same website that saved data to a cookie can access it later. But one website can actually contain bits of another website. These bits and pieces of other websites, embedded in the website you're visiting, are actually able to access cookies they saved to your computer earlier. Imagine visiting a news website. Apart from news articles, many news websites contain a couple of ads. These ads are in most cases bits of other websites embedded into the news website. Now, the news website you're looking at may not have saved any cookies to your computer and thus know nothing about you. But where do the ads come from? It's not unlikely that the ads on the news website are embedded from the same website as the ads on another website you visited earlier. In fact, you may visit dozens of websites with ads which are all embedded from the same website. So what does this mean? This means that if the website the ads come from has saved a cookie to your computer earlier, it can identify you and save information about you through other websites. So while you're reading that news website, shopping for new shoes, looking up cures for a headache, or reading the latest gossip, the ads on those websites can identify you, look up your information in their own system, and dynamically show ads that you're most likely to be interested in, while simultaneously saving information about what you're doing online. So is this a bad thing? Are cookies dangerous? That depends, really. It is up to the creators of a website to determine what information they do and do not store, and more importantly, what they use that information for. Cookies are just a tool, just like a hammer or a saw. They can be used for bad things, but they are intended to be used for good things. The responsibility lies with the people putting them to use. Cookies in a nutshell. To read more on digital transparency, go to www.adversitement.com.
Pretty good website too, by the way. All right. So first question, Cookie Monster. Today we're going over what to learn about cookies. Have you ever created or read a cookie in a web app? And disregard the replaced with answers. I thought those weren't supposed to show up, but that's okay. All right, so looks like most of you have not, so that's great. I like that. So what do you think a cookie is? And just the top two. There you go. And again, disregard anywhere on this presentation that says replace
Am I the
with.
only one playing?
Do I know? Are you the only one playing? I don't know. Are you the only one playing? Is anybody else playing?
I'm not on yet.
You're not on yet? Okay, all right. We're going to start over again then. We will start over again. Thank you. Well, you have two people. Yeah, let's start over again to where everybody's part. That'd be awesome. Thank you. While you're doing that, while you guys are getting logged in here again. Okay, there we go. Now go ahead and join it.
Now and then, you've probably heard of cookies on the internet.
I'm going to mute the sound while you're accessing. So Kahoot.it, put in the PIN number. Naughty names beware. One click of your name and you're out of the game. Move. I'm just kidding. All right, everybody in? Am I waiting on anybody? Am I waiting on anybody? We good?
I'm still trying to get on.
You're still trying to get on? Are you using a web browser?
I was trying to go on the web browser, but I couldn't figure out how to get
You can
on.
do it on a web browser. Yeah, you can do it on Chrome or Firefox, don't matter. And it should just prompt you for the game pin, which is up there at 6347210. Should. That work? Just go to, you want to go to Kahoot.it, overwrite what you see there on that link. Yes, overwrite the URL with Kahoot.it. That's all you got to do. And then type in that Hoot. Yeah, because you guys probably clicked on the link I gave you.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a different pin probably.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Okay.
That's what it is. So yeah, just go to Kahoot.it, type that pin up there, and then hit enter, and you should be good to go, or go OK go after you do nickname. You're waiting, right? Okay. So now it should spin after it says you're in and waiting for me. Now everybody's ready, hopefully, or more people at least. All right. You ever created a red or cookie in a web app? Yes or no? Red or blue? All right. What do you think a cookie is? Data stored in small text on your computer or database like any other? It is a database stored in small text on your computer. There's our scoreboard. Here's what a cookie is all about in this little video.
Every time you visit, it forgets who you are. Now, this can be a good and a bad thing. Without any memory, a website can't do a lot of stuff. It can't let you log in because it forgets who you are.
It should be longer than that.
Every time you visit, it forgets who you are. Now, this can be a good and a bad thing. Without any memory, a website can't do a lot of stuff. It can't let you log in because it forgets who you are. And it can't let you buy anything because it forgets what you're buying. But it also means it can't track you Some websites use cookies to remember what you do on their website and to target ads at you. And some of those websites share their cookies so that ads on one website know what you liked on another. This has scared a lot of people. Like most technologies, cookies aren't automatically good or bad. They can be used for both. What can you do about them? Well, one option would be to turn off third-party cookies, which will stop most websites from sharing information about you. Some browsers, like Safari, do this automatically. You can also take a deeper look into the websites you visit. Most major websites will explain what they do, if you look closely enough. And finally, you can turn off cookies completely, although this will break many popular websites. It would be a bit like banning all music to prevent another Justin Bieber album. We hope you found this video useful. For even more about cookies, visit cookiesandYou.com.
Yeah, another good website. All right. You said, yep, got it. Can you explain again? One of the two. If you've not already answered. Do you guys see that on your phones or screens? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not.
Mine broke a while ago.
All right, let's go to the next one. See if it goes. See if it picks up. Tell me if it picks up on your screen. Did it pick up on you guys on your end? All right, so yeah, why do most websites use cookies? Remember where you visited or target ads. And that's two of the top most important ways that web developers use cookies for sure. What determines how long a cookie lives? We've not went over this. This is a brand new question, a cold question. While browsers open or expiration or never dies? Best guess. Replace the correct answer like that. While browsers open or expiration is correct. And we'll talk more about that tonight. So does web browsers allow you to block cookies? Yes or no? That's the correct answer. Yes is correct. I like that. Oh, I might be able to leave those in from now. I like that. What do you think a web cookie is? This is, again, the first question, which everybody got right, so it's just a way to come back around to what we started with. All right, so good job. Good job. I'll go ahead and we'll stay and get results. There we go. There's our results, 32, Cookie, Igor, and a double exclamation point. And, all right, go out of that. And now we're going to the JavaScript W3 schools. I'm going to read that a little bit before we go into our presentation. I'll turn my pen back on. Okay, so cookies, again, stored data, small text. That text, though, has grown over iterations of years. And reason it has is because the need for, well, website content has changed. When I first started searching the web back in the early 90s, there wasn't much I mean, you had text and maybe a few images. Today, you've got what on a web, any web page that you look at today? What do you have in that web page content-wise? Besides the two I just mentioned, text and images, what else is going to be on that? What could be on that page? Video, yeah. Anything else? Huh? What is it?
Slideshow.
Yep. Anything else you can think of? Animation of some type, maybe. So there are tons of stuff that could be in there. Plus behind the scenes stuff going around. Like we're working on this semester JavaScript, and behind the scenes that people aren't aware of what's going on. And so a lot more to track, I guess. A lot more places to go. So when a web server has sent a web page to a browser, the connection's shut down, the server forgets everything about the user. So ergo, cookies, that's where they come in, okay? Cookies were invented to solve the problem, how to remember where the user went. And so it's helpful for user preferences like languages. You choose a different language for a site and it remembers every time you go there from now on, or color preference or favorites, whatever. There's a whole bunch of things you can use it for. The main thing to know about cookies is, as a developer, you never want to store a cookie that is secure information or could be tied to a user. Does that make sense? So you wouldn't want to store like a username of an individual in a cookie. Do websites do that? Yes, they do. Personally, I don't prefer that, just because, again, it's not real hard to go into any web browser and to physically look at all the cookies in that web browser. Every browser has a setting to where you can see all the cookies that are stored. And so if somebody comes to your computer, sees all the places you've been, and they can see your username in clear text, then you have to guess your password then to a certain site. So I don't recommend that, even though you can do that. It's capable of doing that for sure. Because like I said in the videos, can cookies be used for evil or bad? Definitely they can. Personally, I like to use them and you'll see this like a Google Analytics. You might have heard of that before. And Google Analytics is a perfect example of how cookies should be used, because Google Analytics will show every place a person's been over time or people have been over time on your website. Let me show you an example. On Transform Rockford, which is a website that I help maintain and manage, and a number of students, in fact, Blake's helped a little bit with Transform Rockford in the past. And so let me show you, we've got a really cool example of what cookies can do over time. So at the bottom of the site, there's a analytics. This is a self-driven database analytics that I loaded, but a real popular one besides the one I use, a PHP one here that's designed just for the site as a database and everything. But Google Analytics is the most popular, but it's designed a lot like it. So by default, you'll notice on this analytic page, it's from 2017, 3/5/2017 to 4/3/2017. So roughly a month time is where this analytics takes place. And so over a month's time, you can look at, okay, what type of devices have been viewed on this on the website. Now, again, reload it. So you can see preference, desktop, smartphone is number 2, tablet, phablet, unknown, camera, car browser. That's actually the first time I've seen a car browser category here. Anyway, there's been 0. So it's a new category evidently they added. Console, phone, portable, media, smart device, TV. Then visitor city, Rockford, Chicago, Belvedere, Springfield, Byron. And when I can break each one of these down too. I can open up each segment individually, like Rockford, and literally it'll break it down to time and day and location of where this person was and what pages they visited when they came to the site. Like on April 2nd, this person that was from Comcast, which most of these are, was on a Chrome web browser, desktop, and they visited the main page, the reality check page, and lack of community pride dragging down Rockford's well-being post. Okay, and it tells exactly how long they were on each page. Like this one says a second or 2, 30 seconds, and a minute, 7 seconds on the home page. And that's all driven, by the way, by cookies. Okay, the cookies are saved. The database saves the information once it's saved, kind of like I said on that video about cookies being served as like a pointer now. So that's what basically this is pulling data from. This isn't pulling data from a cookie. This is pulling data from a database that's driven by cookies on people's devices, if that makes sense. Okay. And what's amazing about this is a lot of people aren't aware of what I'm talking about right now. A lot of web developers, when they first start developing, aren't aware that when you create a website, like if you guys all go right now, create a new tab on your web browser and go to transformrockford.org, you will see this real-time counter update immediately when you hit the site. It'll tell immediately using cookies and the database that you're at that site now immediately. And so as you guys join the site and log in to the site and access it, the count should drive up. And then on the right side, we'll actually see here in a second when I refresh pages you actually are going to right now. This one just came in 11 seconds ago. It's one of us in here. Okay. It says you're on a Chrome web browser from the US, Mac, and boom. And then each one of these folders here tell different pages you've been to immediately right now. So what's cool about this as a developer, if we're promoting something or pushing an ad, and I've done this for commercial as well, and we've seen this on TV, it says, go to this website and click on this link. You know, you might have wondered, well, how do they know how many people go? Stuff like this. They can tell immediately who's on right now, what pages are on, just by using analytics. And so on the right side, it's going to give you, in the last 24 hours, 32 visits, last 30 minutes, 4 visits. And here on the right is literally second by second, it's breaking it down, how many places this person's been to, okay, since they connected. And so, pretty cool, right? All by analytics, driven by anyway, cookies. And again, I can't grab any personal information from you or anything, but I can tell what pages you've been to just by hovering over each folder can determine what pages you've been on, how long you visited. And what that's good for from an analytics standpoint is this. If I go to the visitors tab, and I want to figure out engagement or overview of what pages people visited. Let me show you this real quick. Dun, dun, dun. So let's go over actions instead of that. I don't want that. Exit pages. Okay, exit pages mean the pages that the person was last visited before they exited the site. And that's important for developer because exit pages usually, your homepage should be the #1 exit page, okay? Because if people visit it, like this one's 53% exit rate. But look at the blog post here. The blog post for some new posting that a person's putting together, it's 86%, meaning people are visiting that page the most and staying on that page the most, the longest before they leave the site, okay? And this is a new page that they've got, we put together we have a guy from our Star that used to write articles that writes articles now on content on, like this one here, Rockford area communities ranked poorly, and it's called Reality Check. Because up to this point in Transform Rockford, that we have focused on positive stuff only. This isn't technically negative, but it's true numbers, right? True data, which people like to know. And so that one has become the #1 exit section of the site is this new reality check section. And so, but if you have a page that you want to be the #1 and it's say, I don't know, 30%, like the about page is, not many people go there. And stay there for a long period of time. And again, the exit pages are the last page that people go to. And that's important for a developer. Entry pages or site search. This one does have a site search on it, but I don't have it tied in. Downloads, it does tell what pages or what images have been downloaded the most. Like in the last month, this image here was downloaded the most. Rockford Region Scorecard. Tells exactly how many unique downloads, total downloads. So anyway, That's just a real quick snapshot of analytics, what it can be good for, and how it utilizes cookies. And most web students aren't really familiar with analytics, but it's used a lot, and I do recommend it if you ever get a website to use Google Analytics because it's free to use and you can tie any website into it. Every site I have, I use Google Analytics, by the way. Even this site uses Google Analytics as well. So cookies store information, to go back to the W3 Schools page. Whenever a user visits the page, his or her name can be stored in a cookie, like you just saw in the example on the log here. It stores, in this example here, stores location, Fort Wayne, Indiana, browser, Internet Explorer 11, and is a Windows 7 machine. It even gives the orientation resolution 1680 by 1050. Even go that granular level. Okay. So again, all this stuff's information you can gather easily from any computer when they visit your website. So here's what a cookie looks like when you're saving it. An example, you need an ID of some type and a value of some type. In this case, it's username, value John Doe. All right. Going on down to create a cookie in JavaScript, and it's different in every language. So for JavaScript, what we're learning this semester, it's document.cookie equals, and you have to at least have this in there. Okay. The ID, equal sign, and then the value. You got to have that for sure. That's a minimal value, minimal information you have to have for a cookie. What I always use though, because I want an expiration date, which was one of the questions on the slide, is value or ID, value, expiration date. This is Thursday, 18th of December, 2013 at 12 o'clock UTC time. The way we're going to do it this week, and I generally recommend it, is I have a function I have in JavaScript that you can tell that function from the time this cookie's created, how many days do you want this cookie to live? So if I want it to live for a year, 365 days, and it literally will live that long if I want it to on the computer, unless they delete it, which users can delete cookies once they're created. Most don't, but they could. With the path parameter, you can tell the browser what path the cookie. Generally, the path is going to be the default, which is the slash, which is going to be wherever that browser has it go by default. Every browser will have a location in the browser in the tools setting for cookies, okay? And what this is saying is it's the default of whatever browser location has right now. So IE has a different browser location, Chrome, Safari, all of them different locations for cookies. You can find out all that information, by the way. You can just Google cookie places where cookies are stored in whatever browser. So places where cookies are stored in Google, places where cookies are stored in IE, places where cookies are stored in Firefox. It'll give you the steps of how to do that, of where to find it. We won't go over that tonight, but you can definitely do that. To read a cookie, it's var x, or a variable of whatever name you want it, equals document.cookie. That's going to read in all the cookies, by the way. So if there's in your computer or in your browser a cookie named cookie 1, cookie 2, cookie 3, it's going to bring them all in with that document.cookie code. To change a cookie, basically you change a cookie the same way you create it. You have to have the username. And when you have that username, it overwrites, or the ID in this case is username. It could be whatever. I think we use something like list or something. I can't remember. Or no, I think I use your last name list. So the ID, value, and anything you put past that is now going to overwrite. So John Smith, if it was John Doe, now it's going to be John Smith. Okay. Now the old cookie's overwritten. To delete a cookie, very simple. Document.cookie equals the username with nothing past the equal sign. Then it's going to delete it. No content in it whatsoever. And this date, by the way, is a reverse date. It's in the past. Make sense? So it's gone. Puts here a note saying you should define a cookie path to ensure that delete the cookie right. I don't ever do that. I just always use the default. The reason I do that is when you start defining paths, some browsers don't like that. And so if you leave it the default, which is that path equals / it's going to use whatever the default browser the user is using. One browser that in the past has had issues with cookies more than any other is Chrome, but they fixed that like a year ago, I believe, something like that. So shouldn't have any issues with that now with newer versions of Chrome on creating cookies. So the cookie string looks like a normal text string, but it's not. So in this example here, we'll go on down to the JavaScript cookie example. We'll create a cookie that stores the name of a visitor. The first time a visitor arrives at the web page, he or she will be asked to fill in his or her name. The name is stored in a cookie. The next time the visitor arrives, he or she will get a welcome message. For the example, we'll create 3 JavaScript functions: a function to set a cookie, a function to get a cookie, and a function to check a cookie value. So the first one is set a cookie. You'll notice on this, three arguments are available, optional arguments: CNAME, CValue, XDays. So the first variable is var d equals new date. That means right now. It's going to declare d as date. d.setTime equals, or parentheses, d.getTime will be right now time, plus the exday, say they put 30 days, 30 in there, be 30 times 24 times 60 times 60 times 1,000, 30 days from right now is what that is, okay? And var expires equals expires with the concatenate symbol d dot to UTC to string. So it's going to convert it to UTC string, which is important. That way anybody that hits it from anywhere in the world, they're going to get correct time zone for their browser. Last line, document.cookie equals CNAME. We'll say it's, I don't know, RVC equals, and then the value, we'll say it's, I don't know, we'll do the page they're on, index.html or something. Then expires, and we'll say for this example, 30 days, we'll put the expiration. And then the normal default path. And so explaining this a little bit more, the parameters of the function above are the name of the cookie, the CNAME, the value of the cookie, CValue, the number of days until the cookie should be expired. I put 30 in the example here. And the function sets a cookie by adding another cookie together, the cookie name, the cookie value, and the expired string all together. To get a cookie, basically just like this, you need a name in the function called getCookie. You take that name, put an equal sign to the right of it. Next line, to decode it, using this decode URI component, just decodes a cookie. I don't really use that much. You'll see on the one I put together. But this one basically is going to just take apart any weird stuff in the URL. But since you're controlling the URL, you don't have to worry about that too much. This here, you always need, which is a split, semicolon. Semicolon means it's splitting that cookie, cookies, plural, because when a cookie is written to a computer, at the end, terminator is a semicolon, all right? So declare it, decode it, and we'll leave this in for now, and I think I'll leave mine in my code like this, just like it is right here. I don't mess with that. Then this for loop goes through all the cookies and separates them, and it looks for the name cookie here on this one and returns it. So it finds that name, it index of name, it finds it, we'll say RVC, it's going to return that value of the RVC, which is only going to be that one cookie only. It's going to return. So let's scroll on down to the function to check a cookie. Function check cookie needs a username. In this case, it's called username. If username is not equal to empty quotes, then so it's going to mean if username is not populated yet, it's going to alert them. Welcome again, or not, if it is populated, welcome again, Chuck. Else, username is going to prompt to get a username into the variable username. If username is not equal to empty quotes and username is not equal to null, going to set a cookie into the username cookie. I'm going to call this cookie username. Chuck is going to be username for 365 days, for 1 year from now that this cookie will live. So this is what it looks like all together. Set cookie, get cookie, and check cookie. So now let's everybody click on the try it yourself. We're going to run it just like it is right now. It should prompt you right when you run that to put in your first name. It says your name. I'll put in your first name. It's fine. Then it's going to do nothing. Okay, run it again. It'll prompt the second time. Welcome again, whatever you put in for your first name. All right. Third time, it'll keep doing it because the time set for this one is 30 days is what this one's set for. Here's what I want you to do for the play with it a little bit. I think I put this in our notes. I want us to change the name for the cookie to your last name, change the expire time from 30 days to 30 seconds. And here's a tip for you. 1 second is 1,000. 1 second is 1,000. And then test it. And we'll see if you can figure it out. Again, here's the challenge for you, and I'll give you the answer in a second. Change the name of your cookie from whatever it is now to your last name. Change the expire to 30 seconds in place of 30 days. And tip on that is 1 second is 1,000. And test it to make sure it works. And I'll give you a moment or two to do that. Then I'll give you the answer. Sound good? And your cookie name will need to be changed twice in your code. The test, so you just keep clicking the run button for 30 seconds, periodically, kind of roughly. Use your watch or timer or whatever. After 30 seconds, it shouldn't. After you keep hitting the run button, it should go away and go back to the prompt. Somebody still working on that? No? Got it? All right, so let me show you my solution. You can have a different one than what I have, by the way. Okay, so what I did was, all I did was change the, down in the check cookie, you should have changed your, whatever that name was, username to your last name. So I put conkle there on the first line, var user equals get cookie conkle in quotes. And then down on the set cookie part of that function, changing it to conkle as well. I left the 30 as it was because the requirement for this one was from 30 days to 30 seconds. So up here on the set cookie, I basically got rid of everything but the times 1,000. So it'd be 30 times 1,000, which would be 30,000, which would be 30,000 seconds from right now, which would be 30 seconds. 30,000 milliseconds is roughly 30 seconds from now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the run button. And still there. And I'll bring the timer up real quick. So I'll have to keep clicking it. And so we'll wait till it gets around right here, I guess, roughly around 25 marker. It shouldn't be available. Still available right now, though. A few more seconds. We'll try it again. There we go. Back to the prompt again because the timer expired, the cookie expired. Okay. So again, all I did was change the variable for the cookie, the variable name, to my last name. Change the set cookie expiration to times 1,000 for 30 seconds from right now. And that's it to get the resulted that we want. Make sense? So go back to week 11 discussion and go ahead and submit done. And I've got a PDF here I'm going to look at here. Go over this real quick. And this is on cookies and sessions as it pertains to JavaScript. So we'll look at some cookies, brief overview, privacy limitations, types, managing sessions a little bit on HTTP sessions. So we've already learned that cookie is a small file stored on a computer about that user, site they visited. Because the cookie is stored on the user's computer, it doesn't require any server space, no matter how many users have it. So a million people can hit that page, not using any server space, only using the computer, because JavaScript is client side and it's only going to store it on the client. You can use cookies to save user preferences, customize data, remember the last visit, keep track of items, like we saw in the analytics, while the user's using the browser. The cookie specification introduced by Netscape also placed limits. 300. This was the beginning of time, by the way, when they first came out. 310 total cookies could be created. That's been lifted. 4 kilobytes per cookie. That's been lifted. It's about 5 megs now per cookie. 20 cookies per server. That's been lifted as well. Let's just, when it first rolled out, cookies can only be read by the site that created them or the site underneath that site. Prevents from stealing cookies. But as we learned from the video, there's tricks you can do to, like for ads that developers use to pull in user preferences and stuff. So types of cookies. 3 different types. First party cookies are written by your site and can only be read by your site. Third party, created by advertisers in your page and loaded from third-party site. These can only be read by advertiser code on any site displaying ads. Session cookies, not actually written to a file, but are stored in the browser itself. These cookies only last as long as the browser is open. So if we left a cookie without an expiration date, that's what the last one would be. Session cookie. It would die as soon as we closed it. It wouldn't be available. So it came back, that cookie wouldn't be available for us. So these are some of the settings within the cookie. Name and value combo, like username map. Expiration, we looked at that already. Path, and again, I recommend just the /path, which is a default. But this one gives an example of tutorials. Domain, it's an optional value, specifies a domain within which a cookie applies. This one could be important maybe if you're creating a website and you definitely don't want this cookie used on other sites. You could put domain in there for security purposes. So if it was set to like elated.com, the cookie would not be read by search.elated.com. So we cannot set the cookie domain to a domain we're not in. We cannot make the domain Microsoft.com. Only elated.com is allowed. So your domain you're in is the one you can set it to. Usually that's left blank, by the way. Secure, it's an optional flag, indicates that the browser should use SSL when sending the cookie to the server. The flag is rarely used. So here's an example of a few examples of cookies being set. So here's the combo username John. That's the value cookie name, username. Value is John. It expires this date and time. The code says here does exactly the same thing as the previous code, but specifies here the UTC string. We saw that earlier. What this means is that it uses that time zone wherever they're located at, wherever that browser is located at. It's going to use that. Here's another example of cookies. Here's one called logged in. Yes. That's not really a secure thing, so just determining if it's logged in, not logged in. So yes or no. So this here would be alive while the browser is open. As soon as the browser is shut down, it would be gone. It'd be killed. Next one here, var cookie date, underscore date equals new date. This will be the current date and time, which we just saw that earlier on the W3 schools. Cookie date dot set time. Get time -1. This would be a negative to where we're at now. So this is actually going to delete the cookie or kill the cookie. That's what developers call it. And all this actually did was get the current date and time, -1. That's all you got to do. Nothing fancy beyond that. And the name of the cookie in this case is logged in. Nothing to the right of the equal sign will destroy that cookie. Make sense? Strictly speaking, it talks about escaping cookie values, encoding non-alphanumeric characters such as spaces, semicolons. This ensures that our browser can interpret the values Fortunately, this is easily done with the JavaScript's escape function, which we will see that tonight when we do the example of our take-home. But I do have to do a few regexes for ours because we have some weird stuff we put in the array. And so, but beyond that, escape function is going to get rid of any non-printable characters, basically, like spaces, semicolons, stuff like that. Set cookies, we already went over that. We'll do that again. Here's different examples of set cookies. This is no expiration date on the first one. Second one, expiration date of February 15, 2013. Third one, a secure cookie with expiration date and a domain set to elated.com and no path. By the way, if the path is left out, it defaults to the default path of that browser. Another useful it talks about here is deleting. It says the function will delete the supply cookie from the browser by setting the cookie's expiry date to 1 second in the past. So this will call the function, find the username cookie, and delete it. To retrieve all previous cookies, document.cookie will do that. And basically on the second bullet, it says it returns a string comprising of a list of name value pairs of all the cookies in your computer. And they're separated, you can see up here, by semicolon. That's the delimiter. And that's important to note when we look at the code here in a second. So in this example, the two cookies have been previously set. Username with a value of John and password with a value of ABC123. So here's getting a cookie. This is using a cookie.match, which I don't like to use. I like to use regex, a little bit more powerful and quicker. Doesn't take as long. So this is basically matching characters. Basically, it's be characters they do not want to show up in the results. Is what it's matching here. And it's going to return back any non-usable characters they don't want to show up in the results. And I'll show you some regexes that I use tonight. So this function here will retrieve the value of the username cookie, get cookie. Sessions will end on this one and we'll go on. Sessions are basically a combination of server-side cookie and client-side. This class is only on client-side, but I'll talk briefly about server-side because a lot of times they're used together. So if you have a site built in ASP.NET or site built in PHP, which are both server-side, they'll use client-side JavaScript for a lot of things. So client-side cookie simply holds a value and identifies the client to the server and corresponding to that data file, the cookie in this case. So when the user visits the site, the browser sends information, done. A session, though, on the other hand, on a server-side script, can hold that data from page to page. So you can use a cookie to grab data in a server-side script, use a cookie from a JavaScript to grab data, and then save it as a session variable, and then carry that session variable throughout your site. An example would be preferences. So if the preference for the user is English, it could be saved as a cookie, stored in a session variable, and then every page that person goes to on the website, the preference is going to be pulled up as English or whatever it might be that they selected. Make sense? So that way you don't have to call the cookie every page, which you would have to do in JavaScript. So session variables, you don't have to do that. And a session variable uses what's called HTTP for getting and posting those tokens. And it says the reason to use session tokens is that the client only has to handle the identifier. All the session data is stored on the server, and you can go from page to page and not have to refresh that cookie every time. Let's give some languages for HTTP. Here's one for JSON, PHP, and ASP. Advantages of server-side. can contain very large amounts of data. Client side is limited. Client side cookie contains nothing other than small reference code. So for an example, you could store in a cookie, I guess, a pointer to a record that will be available to a user once they're logged in. So unless a person's logged in, that cookie is really meaningless because it's a record number. And they're not going to be able to grab it until they're logged in. So once they're logged in, though, they might want this record number always up in front of that page or something. That would be an example where server-side script would help with that. And also session data is much more secure because it's behind the code. And so if you were to view like PHP, a live PHP page, and try to view the code, it's impossible because the PHP code is stored on the server. And all you're going to see from a user standpoint is HTML and any JavaScript they might have in there. But they're not going to see any server-side code for that. So important to note that sessions only last till the user closes the browser unless an expiry date is set. We generally use developers a 1-year expiration date or a 30-day, depending upon the site, most likely a 1 year. And other than above, there's much difference between, not much difference between session data and cookie data for the most part, except on session data, you store it once and you can be used throughout the site. Cookie data, you'd have to load it on each page, basically. All right. So we did the W3 schools. That's the notes on that. Reading cookies, went over that. So let's go over your homework. And by the way, there is discussion this week as well. So the homework is basically viewing and completing version 4 of the shopping list app. I'll go ahead and click on that. Go over these real quick. So to stay on track for this one, the app should be able to create a new cookie file from a shopping list array, read a cookie file, and update the shopping list array, delete a cookie file, save a new cookie file after display shopping list function, load and read a cookie file function on a Windows load command, and populate the shopping list array. Before we go on, I'm going to show you the final example of that, what it looks like for week 12. So here's week 12. Looks normal so far, right? So I'll go ahead and put in there eggs, all 25. I did add some CSS, which we talked about adding last week. Same thing this week. You guys can add some more CSS, and you can look at my CSS code if you want to on what I did and copy from that. That's fine. And so I'm going to put a few items in here. Let's see, bread, we'll do bread. And right, and make sure all this stuff's working here like it should. Good. Now, difference is, okay, now I'm going to exit out of this website altogether. And up to this point, when we clicked on this again, it's starting all over again each time. Now with cookies, it should remember what I just did. This is because of a cookie. All right, so it's remembering everything I put in there before and being able to pick it up. And I could send it. Now, granted, this is for this device only. My website, I'm on this computer here, but it could, be on a phone or a tablet or whatever. But it is stored on that device to where you could send it to other people. And we'll talk about that actually next week, how to do that. And just to jump ahead a little bit, when we do that next week, what we're going to do is we're going to use what's called URL preferences or URL pass-by value preferences. We will put some values in the URL, which is going to basically comprise of the entire contents of our array that can pass to anybody. And I'm going to try to include what's called you guys have seen this before, maybe URL shortening. Have you seen that before? Like Bitly is a popular one. You guys heard of that? We're going to give like a really ugly URL and shrink it down to 10 characters. I'm going to try to pass this logic for next week into a Bitly API or something like that to where it'll shorten the URL to where when we send it to the people, whether it be text or email or whatever, or Facebook, and they click on it, it'll be a short URL they click on, but it'll expand out to what all the contents are in that. So that's what I'm going to try to do anyway. So let's look at the code here. Let's go back to the shopping list and we'll look at the code, and then we'll look at it live as well. So fork your 3.2, I believe, is the last week's version, week 11. Make it 4.0, week 12. First, you'll create a new cookie from the shopping list array. And that one should be this code here. I have a load cookie. It should be create cookie. So let me fix that. Must not have saved that one. So I'm going to fix that right now. This code here. Yeah, it's that code there. So you'll look at the code here. It's I call a save cookie. And the first thing I do is I delete the existing cookie, which I'm having you guys call your cookie, you'll see in a second, your last name list. So mine's Conco list. So if a cookie exists, and by the way, this is ran after the shopping list array is ran. So after the shopping list function is ran, the display shopping list, then save cookie is ran each time. Delete cookie is going to delete any cookie that exists with that name. Then here it's going to set that date for a year from that time, which is more than enough, definitely. Then this is going to create the cookie. And here's the escape value that was noted in the notes we looked at. This is going to strip most code that it doesn't need, like HTTP will be stripped from there, : 2 forward slashes, the .com, anything it doesn't need will be stripped out of that. Went over the path, default, expiration, year from now. So that's the saving. Then reading, again, you'll do a read function, it'll be your name. And basically it'll come in on the read function. And notice here, it's splitting the cookie by semicolon. So all the cookies that are in your computer at that time or phone or whatever will be split on that line I'm highlighted. Here is where the for loop occurs, and the power of this one is right here in this line. So if it finds your name, which in my case is Conco list, it returns Conco list as a variable and all the contents of that cookie. Then delete the cookie. That's the function for that. All you need is a name, which in my case is Conco list. And I did put a past date on mine. You could do like the example on the PowerPoint we looked at, the -1 time. Then saving cookie and placing it underneath all existing display shopping list. So here's a note I put in here in a comment. On the save cookie function, replace Conco with your last name. And it'll need to be done on the delete cookie function. It'll need to be done also on the write cookie line here as well. And I didn't put all the instances, but multiple instances you'll see in a second when we look at the JS file. Anywhere you see the display shopping cart function called, you want to put save cookie right after it on version 4. Okay, and on version 4, what it's going to do on save cookie, remember, is delete Conco list, grab in the variable for shopping list, which is going to be shopping list.join. And basically what this is doing on the shopping list.join comma, since it's an array, every comma is every array item in an array list in PHP or in JavaScript is separated by a comma. Okay, every item in there. And so that's why I have a comma in there. Next, here's a different one. We've looked at this, I think, in week 3 or 4. But basically what this function is in the JS file is when you come to and load your page and it hits the JS, the windows.onload equals function. These two functions in here, populate shopping list on load and display shopping list, will load before the user does anything. It'll call before the user does anything. So this function we'll see in a second does what it sounds like it's going to do. Grab the cookie, populate the shopping list with that cookie, from that cookie, and then the normal display the shopping list from that array. So the cookie really is only read once, and it's read upon load when the user goes to the page. That's it. It's written multiple times depending on how many items they add to the list. So if you just send somebody this list and they don't add any items, all it's going to do is load that array into the shopping list at the top, and then they can check what they want. Now, if they delete anything during that session, if they're at a store and they delete something, that shopping list is still going to be in existence. They don't have any rights. It'll only get rid of the cookie on your device. Does that make sense? It's not going to get rid of the cookie on their device. But now here's the trick. What they could do is this, and this could happen. If you send them a shopping list and they edit it, say they add a new item or they delete item, if that URL that you sent them, if they now, if we give them the ability to send, which I don't know if I want to or not, but if we do, they can resend that list again to somebody else. It'll be a new URL that'll be created in a bit.ly with the data that they just created or updated to that other user. So we could definitely do that. So we'll come to talk about it, so you guys want to do. If you want to have you only control the list and only you can control, that way you can use it over and over again, or it can be reused throughout the iteration of that list. So we'll talk about how you want to do it, and we'll show you kind of both ways how it can be used. So once the load and reload is done and the function's loaded into the shopping list, here's what the populate shopping list on load looks like. Notice on this one, I clear out the shopping list array. I clear out the add to cart array. And even though the add to cart array should be empty already, I throw it in there already anyway, especially if the user just loaded that URL. Then it reads the cookie, your cookie list, mine's Conco list, removes unwanted characters with a function we'll look at in a second. I called it remove unwanted. Then I separate each item by a comma. We talked about how these arrays are separated by a comma. Then if Y, all that's doing is seeing if data is available. If data is available on Y, it's going to replace the shopping list with the contents of the cookie here on this line here. This page here talks about the remove unwanted function. It looks for first if the string is null or if the string is empty quotes, it'll return it. Else, first line, it just plugs the string, which is going to be the cookie contents, into str. Then the next 3 lines, or actually 4 lines, are multiple regexes. This first regex is to remove the space in the text of that cookie and replace it with nothing. Second one here, %24 in HTML is a $. So replacing any instance of %24 with $. By the way, the G, if you don't remember, on regex means global, everything. So if you don't put the G in there, it'll only replace the first instance it finds in your. So if you have 5 items or 10 items, I'm going to replace the first item. You don't put the G in there. This next one is the barcode, the bar line, the %7c. And because I use a bar on this version versus a comma, You'll see why in a second. And then the last one is all non-printing characters that I don't want to show up, including spaces. And it finally returns that value then after the last value has been given. So let me show you here. When a cookie's created, I did add in the add to shopping cart function. The current code you have right now has a comma right here after the if count is equal to 1, meaning it's the second item, which is I think the cost. Puts a $sign before the cost. Otherwise, it's going to put a bar after the first item. So the way it works here is it's going to be name, the bar symbol, cost. Before it was comma. All right. The reason I had to do that was since comma is the delimiter of the array, I had to replace the bar item with, or the comma item with a bar item, basically. All right. Once I did that and the code is ran, you'll see the bar item show up here. So the bars are now instead of that comma. And the reason I had to do that is because each item in the array is separated by a comma. All right. Do that again. And so let me also, because I didn't put that in there, stop it, run it, and it's back. I can remove everything like we could before. If I stop and run it, not there anymore because I cleared out all the cookies. All right, so let me put a note in that because it's not a lot of change, but it would be a version 4 change in here, which would be in the add shopping list function. I'm going to put that in the notes so you'll get that on the for loop. Put a note on that. On the populate shopping list, I'll put one more page in here. Yeah, I'll put change or update, really update. Update, and it's called add shopping list, function add shopping list. Please comma with so I'm just going to put a dot 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 so you'll know there's stuff in there. And get rid of some of the stuff here. All right, does that make sense? So you're just updating that one, taking out the comma, and adding in the bar item instead. I did update the slides so you can see that in there. It's in my code, but I didn't put it in the slides here. All right, questions on version 4? All right, once you're done with version 4, as always, test it. I do have in there the Pinko I created for week 12. I did put a note on the challenge if you've not yet done it yet. Again, just kind of keep adding this each week. Adding your CSS. If you want to look at my CSS, you can look at mine and how I did mine. I did add a few new CSS features from last week. I added a CSS for the remove button and the adds button. The adds button both. The adds button, I added a float right, 20 pixels from the bottom, 20 pixels from the right. The background color and the foreground color white on that one. And so when I add an item now, you'll see that reflection of that adds, it shoves it to the right. And I also had to add in a label function as well. Let's see if I got that at the top. Yeah, right up here. This label, CSS, float right, 15% pad or 15 pixel pad, text indent 5, that's for this ad right here. So this wasn't added in, the word add was shoved all the way over here to the left. And because I did add to my JS on the display, just for aesthetics purposes, right here. In the checkbox, I added a label before and after the checkbox, and then use the CSS to wrap it and to control it with this label code, with this label CSS. All right. So you can look at mine, you can use it as it is, and then make changes you need to in your JS file if you want to, for formatting purposes. Make sense? Questions on version 4? We're getting closer, by the way. We're able now to at least save data and to get it to where that data is now available to share with others. So technically, at this point, you could actually share this URL with anybody that has a device, any web-enabled device that should be able to, it'll load. They won't be able to, they'll be able to save the data themselves and do what you're, we don't have a share button in here yet, but at least be able to save that shopping list so they could do it at home. And when they go to the grocery store and they load that same URL later, it should have that same data in there. It should. And so you guys can try it if you want to. After you're through, I'm gonna get ready to use it tonight. Actually, I'm going to highlight it. So I've got a list my wife gave me. So I'm loading my version 4 of the shopping list and going through the aisles, and I'll let you know how it works. And so, but we're getting closer. And so you might be thinking ahead though next week on the ability to share the have that share button available for other users. I'm thinking there'd be no problem with that. I don't see a reason why we can't do that or shouldn't do that. That way they can, have a version of that shopping list from that point on. The benefit I saw on them not being able to do that was you are in control of the shopping list. That way, even though they changed whatever, you are in control of the shopping list. That way, it's the same shopping list every time. They can't mess with it. They can mess with it during that session, but it's not going to save anything for later. So, make sense? All right, so that's week 12. Due date is next Monday, 11:59. I did change the due dates as well this week. So if you have any questions, if you come up and see me as always. If you've not been to the Hour of Code, definitely recommend that for Wednesday. And we are done. If you have any questions, come see me. Good job. Check in? Okay. Yeah, if you didn't check in, that would be awesome. You could do that.